going to be focusing on how to shoot straighter on console at 80 FOV. More often than not, when I do any video above 80 FOV, I get comments saying my gun does not shoot that straight. I decided to put it to the test. I dropped my FOV to 80. I ran some tests to kind of figure out how it works. And I think the common denominator is that you are missing one of the key elements to make sure you shoot straighter. There's usually 3 you got to focus on. And I think most people only get 2 out of the 3, which is the huge problem that we're going to be breaking down today. You can see in some of the footage, this is at 80 FOV. And I'm controlling weapons that sometimes people will say are hard to use. So since Warzone doesn't really have private matches, what we're going to be looking at here is how we're going to focus on controlling recoil. We'll focus on the 3 different elements. Obviously, I covered a little bit of this in my last video where I was talking about finding the zero. And essentially what the finding the zero is you want to make sure that you're pulling down, especially on a controller, on a fixed position so that your center is now a little bit lower. So in this particular example, you'll see kind of how the controller works. And what will happen is when I fire the weapon, if I don't adjust, the gun goes up and to the right. Pretty straightforward. And this will work with regardless of what weapon you're using. So if you're using the AMAX, which we know kind of mostly goes up, and people thought that this one's a really hard one to control, pretty much this one is super easy because all you do is manage the sweet spot. At 80 FOV, you're going to have this zoom. Regardless if you're on affected or independent as a PC player, if you're on 80 FOV, when you aim down sight, it'll be this amount. If I jump this up to 120 FOV and it was on independent, it would still be the exact same zoom because this zoom is based off 80 FOV when it comes to independent. So if I go here, you'll see I can go ahead and hold this straight down and it'll look like I have no recoil on console FOV. Obviously I have frames or whatever the heck you want to make another excuse about, but at the end of the day, it's as easy as that to shoot fairly straight. A lot of times what people will struggle with is not being able to see because the visual recoil maybe seems like it's a little bit higher. But this is kind of how most weapons will go, where you can kind of see below my camera that I'm kind of locking into a specific location and then I just hold there. And then as soon as it stops, you'll see that the gun just drops down automatically for the reload or whatever the case is. But it's fairly easy, even at super long ranges on 80 FOV, to pretty much hold this straight and you shoot kind of at the same spot. Obviously, you got to factor in bullet velocity or whatever the case is. But the part that I didn't really do a good job of is this macro adjustment. So a lot of times what will happen is if you're here, let's say I want to aim at this pole. People mostly try and aim like this. Oh, you know what? Let me adjust my aim. And then that's the part that people will struggle with. What you'll notice is if I move this even slightly, it's going to go ahead and push my aim. I use control freaks, which you can kind of see right here. I use a precision ring and a control freak on a scuff controller. I have a code if you want to try scuff with paddles or whatever. But even if you have a regular controller with precision rings, control freaks, you're going to be able to have a decent amount of control over your controller. The problem is to make this slight adjustment. If you're looking at my thumbstick, I have to move it and it's going to adjust. It's very hard to kind of be there. So what you'll do is you can actually use the left analog stick to aim, your movement stick to aim. And that's the part where most people struggle with. And that is so I can go here and you can see I'm moving only the left and I'm lining up with the target. So a lot of times what happens is most people, especially when I've reviewed gameplay of average players, one of the biggest parts they struggle with their aim is they stop moving their feet as soon as they start aiming. So right here, you're kind of shooting it straight on the target. And if I was off on the target, then that would be a little bit tricky to kind of line up my shot. So what will happen is if I'm tracking someone, I shoot here and I need to adjust, I might over adjust and not hit the pole. Versus if I aim right here, I can make a slight adjustment with my left stick. You can kind of see I'm only losing my left stick to aim and you kind of line up with the target. And this is what allows you, so even if I put max distance, like you can see my entire thumbstick, it's barely moving. So if I'm barely off on the target, it's a lot easier to just make this movement if it's barely off, because a lot of times you're going to be barely missing them because the way aim assist works, that bubble may slow you down a little too much and hard for you to track. So when you're doing this, you can actually adjust that and you're on target. And then it's pretty easy and good to go. So that's kind of how you would do it and you strafe there. Now we'll go ahead and look at some of those clips from the beginning, and I'll go ahead and show you how that is with aim assist, which is the third thing, and why this strafing is so important. So this is the gameplay of these specific clips, and what we're gonna do is look at how I'm adjusting my aim. If you look at the analog stick, you can go ahead and kind of see this as I go frame by frame. You can see that I'm kind of lining up my shot. I thought somebody was down here by the edge of the crate because of what we're looking at over here on the mini map. I thought they were much lower. It looks like they could be behind that box. I just can't see where they're at. So I'm going to continue to adjust my aim. I see the guy gliding in, so I adjust my aim there, and then I start shooting. As I start shooting, you can see that I find the 0. This actually doesn't move too much, and you can see my left analog stick is pulling far left, and then I'm adjusting a little bit for aim. As the person moves, I stop and I kind of recenter. I'm on target. You can see I keep making the micro adjustments, but as a whole, my right analog stick is barely moving. And that is when we go in frame by frame, you can kind of see how that goes. There's very subtle movements until I actually need to move my aim, and then boom, I adjust it to, hey, I want to go ahead and snap to the other target. And this is regardless of what gun you're using. And I have some AS44, which is super hard to control even on 120 FOV. I was just using this as an example because a lot of people struggle with controlling certain weapons, and a lot of it has to do, there's a visual component, but the actual recoil pattern is no different. If I go and shoot a wall on console and I go in there on 120 FOV on PC with affected view or whatever, the recoil patterns will trace each other because they have predictive recoil. Although the visual shake of the gun might look a little bit different, you can still shoot very straight if you know how to focus on where you need to aim. So in this one, there's a lot going on. I end up mounting here. I get a couple quick kills. You can see when I'm mounting, I'm not really using my left analog stick, but the right one needs to pull down just slightly. Then I see there's a guy on the left. I go ahead and adjust my aim and then go ahead and take that guy out. And you can see that I'm only really using my right analog stick because I'm mounted. I go ahead and adjust there. I take that guy out. And then I reload, I recenter up on this left guy, and you can see now I'm not mounted. I'm adjusting my left analog stick, and then I make a far adjustment to correct on target, and then I'm basically take the guy out, I make a quick adjustment on my movement, and that's how you're going to aim. So you have to combine those three factors to maximize your ability to control recoil on console FOV, which is 80. So that involves you using strafing to your advantage, which also helps with rotational aim assist up to 200 meters. Then you also have finding your 0, which is very important. And then lastly, obviously that combines with aim assist. So then now you're getting 3 things that are helping you stay on target regardless of the range. And at the lower FOV, to be honest, the target will actually appear larger versus at 120 FOV, these guys would be kind of dots and it would give the illusion that there was less recoil. So try it out for yourself. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.